real conversations, and some hard truths. Gangs, drugs, and guns. Giving a voice to those willing to sacrifice. We have stories that need to be told. We have lessons that need to be taught. Protect and serve. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. All right, welcome back, everyone. Nathan Romas with you. We are coming up to Remembrance Day, and I've got a number of guests lined up to talk about service and sacrifice. We are going to talk about their experiences in training and deployments, the memories, the people, and the impacts of service. I've also brought along a co-host this year, retired Sergeant Ben Click. So Ben spent 20 years in the Canadian Army, much of it behind the rifle. Now he teaches mental management and marksmanship to military, law enforcement, and civilians. He is the owner of Sierra 6.4 Riflecraft and had two previous appearances on the podcast. He was in episode 16 from the first season and was the first of our Remembrance Day series from 2022. Today, we have guest Nicholas Turner on. Nick has served 18 years in the military in two different occupations. He spent 9 years in the infantry with 3 PPCLI. Here, Nick was the sniper detachment commander and a parachute instructor. Nick completed 2 tours in Afghanistan. After that, he went to selection and became a search and rescue technician, or SARTech for short, which he's been doing for the past 9 years. Nick worked operationally at 413 Squadron. I hope I'm saying that right. Not 413, it's 413.
Yeah, 413.
Okay. And that's in the province of Nova Scotia. Then as a SARTech instructor in Comox, where he's helping to kind of shape the future of this trade. So welcome, Ben and Nick.
Thank you.
Hey guys, awesome to be here.
So we're kind of got a new dynamic this year. Got co-host in here. So I think we'll have even kind of a more full conversation about stuff. But Nick, we'll let you kind of take it away and start at the beginning and tell us about you and where you're from and growing up.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, thanks again for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Starting with my childhood, I was born in Ontario in Toronto because my dad was in the Airborne Regiment with 2 Commando in Petawawa. So I was born out in Ontario there, and we lived in Petawawa for 4 years, and then we moved out to Calgary, where you went to 1 PPCLI. So being in a military family, we were kind of already moving around right off the bat in my life, kind of starting from my first memories of moving away from PET and getting into Calgary. We spent 4 years there, and then we moved to Wainwright, which is still in Alberta. We spent a good chunk of time in Wainwright. That's kind of where I actually got to spend a lot more time with my dad because he wasn't deploying overseas anymore. He was teaching at the school and he was around a lot more. So that was really good for our family life and family dynamic. And we spent, I think, about 7 years there. And then we moved out to Edmonton, where he went back to 1 PPCLI and started getting ready for deployments to Afghanistan while I was in high school.
Okay.
So we were living in Edmonton. That's kind of where our home base was for a long time, because when I graduated high school, I joined the military right away and left and came back to Edmonton to 3 PPCLI and spent 9 years there. So that was kind of our home base for a really long time.
Yeah. Well, and so when you're growing up, and this is something I always find fascinating, you talk about like the military brats and moving around. Do you find that has any kind of effect on you as a kid? Do you think it makes your life, is it harder because you're moving around and changing homes and friends, or did you kind of thrive throughout that?
Yeah, I think it's really hard at the time when you're a kid, just as well as like having your father deploy, like all those things, not getting to spend as much time with your parent as you would like, plus having to move, were very difficult things. But that being said, like later on in life, I think it served me very well, being able to be like an adaptable person and kind of meet people and make friends easily. And it kind of helped prepare me for my own military career in a lot of senses. So, at the time as a kid, it was challenging and tough. And then as an adult, I could see the benefits that it had.
Yeah, kind of in retrospect. it's you see the benefits. Can you talk about just kind of what kind of kid you were? So were you more the outdoors type, or were you growing up like in the city and um, just supermarket and back, and then easy life?
Yeah, well, we lived in, like I said, in Calgary for a little bit there when I was younger, but I was always really into sports, and that was a good way for me to get out my energy and maybe some of my feelings without really realizing it, being
Mm,
having my dad away or, having to move again or whatever. But I always felt like if I was out running and doing something, then I would be in a good headspace. So like when I look back at it as an adult, that's kind of how it looks now. So I was playing soccer, lacrosse, football, skateboarding, um, running track and field, always kind of like, doing something active and physical.
yeah. Do you think? I guess that would translate really well into the military lifestyle. So you're playing sports all seasons. You're outdoors all season, so you know what it's like.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know if the sports really translated over other than like I had a good base of physical fitness when I left as an 18-year-old to join the military. I just already had a good base of fitness, not only from playing those sports, but when my dad was around, he'd take me to the gym. My dad was a big time power lifter. So he would always take me to the gym with him when I was a teenager, show me how to work out and train properly and eat properly. So, he gave me lots of good tools, which also helped build into my military career and kind of the way that I attack fitness within it.
Yeah. Did your dad do you think he kind of pushed you in a certain direction? He's like, I'd like him to be in the military when he grows up, or is it are you kind of left to uh, say choose whatever path you like?
Yeah, my parents were always very supportive of choosing whatever path that I would like, but I think my dad being such a strong personality, without meaning to rub that stuff off on me, I think a lot of it did. And I thought the last thing I was going to do was join the military, but I wasn't a very good student. I didn't take, not because I'm not smart, but because I didn't take school seriously when I was growing up,
Mm,
and I wasn't really interested in the subject matter. I felt like we should be doing like lifestyle skills, and we weren't really doing that, right? So when it was getting close to the end of high school, my dad's like, "Hey, man, like, what do you want to do with your life?" kind of thing. And I said, "Well, I
yeah.
think I want to join the fire department." My dad said, "Well, you kind of have to have a resume." And he kind of just talked to me about doing a 3-year contract in the military and kind of gaining some life experience and going from there. And I heard him out, and I thought it was a really good decision for me to go gain some life experience. But here I am, over 18 years later. So obviously, I liked it a lot more than just for a 3-year contract.
Yeah. Well, do you have any siblings? Anyone else that's kind of gone into the military?
I'm an only child.
Oh, okay. And maybe on a little bit on family history. So outside of your dad, anyone else that's served or kind of had an impact on you?
Um, I mean, like growing up, meeting a lot of my dad's good friends, they were, people that I called uncles,
Yeah.
for example. So, meeting lots of strong characters like that. And I think that was one thing that, kind of drew me to the military later, was that I could see how tight my dad and his friends were. And they all had like similar interests. They all were fit and worked out and talked about sports, and they were always super fun to be around. So, yeah, that was, I think there was a bunch of different influences from different levels, I guess. Yeah.
Well, when you're talking about that and the working out and the fitness, I'm picturing your dad is 6'6" and like 250.
Well, my dad's slightly shorter than me, and I'm by no means a tall man. So
Yeah.
I would say 5'7.5" on a good day, but he does weigh in at over 200 pounds of muscle for sure.
There you go. Um, so when you're growing up and you're just talking about a bit about the school aspect, was there anything that you were better in or geared more towards? Like, is it phys ed kind of your jam, and then everything else you're like, I could do without that.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Phys ed was always fun because you just got to go run around and do something fun, sports wise, or train for something. So I enjoyed that, and there was a guitar class, so
Mm,
that was pretty. got to actually learn guitar for free lessons, so that was pretty sweet. And then other than that, it was really hard for me to find something that kept my attention. I needed to be moving around, and yeah, it was really hard to sit still and learn math that I didn't feel like applied to my life.
So Nick, was it all, or was it mostly military schools, base schools you went to?
No, I when growing up, I was always kind of going to a school off of base. So even in Calgary, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I wonder, like, you talk about early influences and family and stuff, and I don't know. I think Nathan kind of knows this. For anybody listening, I've known Nick since he was probably about a year old. His father and I served in Tucumano together, and then crossed paths again in the battle school. Um, and I wonder, what as a kid, whatever we see and whatever we do, we think that's normal. But I didn't see too many 9 or 10-year-olds in the Wainwright gym smoking pads with their dad, like gloves on, and boxing with their dad, to the point where they're just covered in a sheen of sweat. I walked into the gym one day, and there's Nick just wailing away on pads, and I'm like, yeah, that's not a typical experience. Like, not a lot of 9 or 10-year-olds have their own ghillie suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've had tons of strong influences. Your parents are both rock stars. You're surrounded by all these people who are very similar in their motivation. They're very similar in their discipline. And as a kid, I think we accept that as normal. But and I offer that maybe when you get out after 2 or 3 years, you'll look back and go, "Oh man, that was not normal." Like that's a pretty unique upbringing.
Yeah, for sure. I already started to take a look at that actually. Like I'm talking about some stuff in therapy, and I'm realizing, yeah, like, I guess my childhood wasn't super normal, but it was amazing in all of its own ways, right? So
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is what you take from it, as once you grow up and you can kind of reflect on things, you have that maturity, you look back and you're like, yeah, it was different, outside the box, but the uniqueness kind of lends to maybe some different skill sets, some different strengths later on down the road that a lot of other people don't have.
yeah,
Because you had those experiences. So might be harder in like one aspect of your life, but it serves you better in another or further on.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
a lot of those, my childhood served me very well.
Yeah.
Once I joined the military, and another thing, like adding into what Ben's saying, where maybe it wasn't normal, it's like same thing. I'm like going on camping trips to the drop zone so I can watch my dad skydive on weekends, and like
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's like, yeah, no wonder I love jumping out of planes, and it would just seem so normal to me growing up to watch people jump out of planes. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a normal thing. Everyone does that.
Yeah. And I remember, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember, and it might have been in the gym too. You did something to help or support somebody else, and I'm like, yeah, that kid's got the thing that counts, and that's mindset. That teamwork. You talked about sports and stuff, and that's beyond the physical fitness. You're learning the importance of teamwork to the point where it becomes automatic. You may not even realize it when you're 9 or 10 or 11, but it becomes a daily function. But it's something that sometimes has to be taught to some people. Where with you, I'd offered probably came pretty automatically just from watching the circus that was the people around you in your life.
Yeah, for sure, Ben. That's a good point.
I think the camaraderie part too, because you just mentioned that, and that you only get that from teamwork. But I find camaraderie, like once you're part of a really succinct team, everybody's working together. You can find you might have your disagreements, but everybody's really good. That camaraderie is like a massive draw, and for myself, anyways, I find it's hard to give up. So I can see why guys go further down the road, like you're saying. Sometimes parents might not be home as much. They want to get out there and be with the people that they're with at the job. But do you find like that's an issue for you at all when it comes to being a part of these groups, or maybe you're deploying, kind of letting go of that, coming back to family, civilian stuff?
Yeah, actually, it can be pretty challenging. Like, even I'll give you an example as an instructor at the school here at SIFSAR. We're so busy during that year long course that we're constantly deploying away on different phases and spending so much time with these guys. And it ends up sometimes being more time than you spend with your family.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you're back with your family. So when you're with the guys, you're missing your family, and sometimes when you're with your family, you're missing the vibe of the guys
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
you're so used to being with them for such an extended period of time, right?
Yeah. I find that even with work now, like we do our 4 on 4 off, and then on the 4 off, I'm super bored in like 4 days off. So I usually got to work an overtime shift and then finish all my work around the house. Like you really got to keep busy.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I think you hit on it very well, Nathan. Is that when you're out there, you talk about your kids, you talk about your family, and then when you get back, you sit around with the same people you just spent all your time with and talk about work. Or when you're at work, do you ever find that like when you're at work, you're at work?
yeah.
Like when you're on the hunt, you're on the job. Your mind and your heart and everything is there.
Yeah.
You ever find that happens, or you ever like, oh yeah, hey, I have a family.
It depends, like, when if there's something specific going on and when you're out there looking for things, you've got a specific goal you've been given, a task, a mission, you are like fully committed, you're involved, um, especially in the job that we do, or I imagine military,
Mhm.
you know, it's life or death some days, and you can't afford to not be in the mindset. So I think a lot of it comes down to the focus and able to put yourself in the zone for that period of time. One of the things I find it transitions to though is when you're done your shift, it's hard to like wind down, right? You're just still kind of thinking and thinking. So it takes like, some people it takes like half hour after their shift or 2 hours. They come home and they might just watch TV for 2 hours, even though they're home at like 4 a.m. They're not going to bed till 6, 7 a.m. So you're you got to come back down and get back to like, I'm in this quiet house.
Mhm.
There's nothing going on. Most normal people are asleep at this time, so I got nothing else I can really be doing, except maybe just go down the YouTube rabbit hole and make myself dumber or something. But
So,
but yeah, no, it's about like a lot about that mindset. I find it's hard to bring yourself out of that and wind down at the end of shift.
yeah, I believe it. Is there any particular rituals you have or other people have other than like watching TV or whatever? Is there anything specific you do?
Not for me, but I know, obviously the bad one that some people get into is drinking to kind
Yeah,
of
exactly.
relax and stuff. But you got to just find different coping mechanisms. I keep busy with like the podcast stuff. Like I can do this
Mhm.
all day, every day. I'm researching people. I'm looking things up.
Yeah.
Trying to make connections and talk to people. So I keep myself busy really with that. But yeah, Nick, we were just kind of talking here about what you do when you're when you finish a shift or a deployment or a mission, whatever it might be, just kind of how you transition out of that and wind down from whatever you were involved in.
Yeah, I guess I got two different things because I had two different careers, right? One which is very similar in shift work styles as you, but and then one where I was deploying overseas, and when you're coming back, it's really hard to reintegrate back into society and being what I would consider like a normal person
Mm-hmm.
again. It was definitely really hard adjusting coming back from my first deployment. So I didn't really have like a ritual or anything, but like you mentioned, I was like drinking lots because I just guess I didn't really know how to cope right when I got back from there. So that's kind of how that went returning from Afghanistan. But whereas being a SARTEC working shift work, getting called out on missions, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, kind of similar to being a cop until you're on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And then you could go do something super crazy. And then once you're off shift, you're like, boom, right back into being a dad and trying to get in the swing of things. And I think it's kind of a hard adjustment to do, to switch from something that was really high intensity to just go right into being a dad, or getting into your normal daily routine again after something like that. But I would say after like night shifts and stuff, I'd have to come home because you're amped up from flying around in the helicopter for hours and your body's still like vibrating. So yeah, like you said, I would end up just trying to watch TV for a little bit to calm my body down so I can get some sleep and get recharged for still being on call for the rest of the night.
Yeah. I see you got a gym behind you. So you got a home gym and everything there. So you can work out or do something else.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I got the gym down here, and yeah, I'm in a good routine using that in the morning. And yeah, it's a good way to just come in and burn off a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just Nathan, just to add some context for people who are listening. Nick's talking about two very different things, and I wonder how very different they are. Nick was a combat sniper deck commander in Afghanistan with a couple tours, where he's gone for months at a time. And now what you're talking about as a SARTech is for very short periods of time. You're out on one mission. But what most people may not know is that I would offer that being a SARTech is just as, or perhaps at times more dangerous than your former occupation, because you're doing it all the time. You're going out into the unknown. What SARTechs do is extremely dangerous. It's continuous risk management, and they're putting their lives on the line, on a continual basis. So you're getting up to that level of mental performance, and then you got to switch back, and you come back and you see people getting annoyed because the Wi-Fi is down. Have you ever looked around, Nick, and like looked at the real world after a risky mission and gone like, well, what the hell? Like, what are these people complaining about?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that can actually bother me quite a bit when I see someone out in public being bothered by something so mundane, and they're taking it out on somebody else like really rudely. And I'm just like, really? That's what you're concerned about? Do you not have any real life concerns? Like, yeah. So definitely hear what you're saying there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet.
So maybe we'll move into kind of the recruiting and training, some of the stuff. If you could kind of walk us through, like when you made the decision you wanted to go into the military, talk about going through some of the recruiting, what that was like, and then how training went, your initial training.
Okay. Yeah. So when I made that decision, like I said, after having that conversation with my parents and having my dad kind of recommend, hey, go get that life experience. And then after having that, you can kind of apply for whatever you want out there, but you're bringing something to the table. You're not just an 18-year-old kid out of school. So I'm like, yeah, okay. Like really that makes a lot of sense. All right, I'm down. Like I'm going to go do it. So actually what's pretty funny is it's not like I gave it a ton of thought. I was just like, you know what, that's 3 years. I can commit 3 years, no matter what, for gaining life experience and like serving the country. So I'm like, yeah, all right. So I went down on my 18th birthday. I went down to the recruiting center in Edmonton there, and I like asked to go through the application process and stuff like that. And then it was like really quick where I signed up for what I wanted to sign up for. I did my aptitude test and physical exam and a couple other things. And then it was just kind of a waiting game after that. I graduated.
What year would this be?
This was in 2005.
Okay. So Afghanistan is kind of going on, but it wasn't at the...
Yeah, and actually, while I was joining is when they signed off on offensive operations for the first time since the Korean War. So that happened in 2005. And then in 2006 is when Canada started offensive operations in Afghanistan. Even though we had been there for, 4 years prior, that's when the real offensive operations began. So as I was joining, right as I was signing up, that's when our government had just cleared, like, yeah, we're going to offensive operations. So I kind of already had an idea, like, that I would get the potential to deploy to Afghanistan within my contract and stuff like that. But I didn't know what the military looked like. And to me, I was like, people in the military all look like my dad and his friends. And here I was, like a little skinny 125-pound 18-year-old. It was really hard for me to put on weight, but I was super fast and stuff like that. So I had some stuff to bring to the table, but I was like, oh, like, I don't know how this is going to go for me. So after I did all the stuff for signing up on my 18th birthday, like I said, I think I waited about a month and a half, and then I got a phone call.
Oh, really? That quick?
And I was off.
Nice.
And I was off. Yeah, off to the military. And then I had to swear into the military first. So right before you leave for basic training, you go swear into the military, and that's actually where I met my closest friend to this day. Now we swore into the military together, and kind of were like, oh, look at look at this guy, you know what I mean? And then we went because I had like super long hair and I was a skateboarder and I had a thrash band, and here I was looking kind of like skateboarder hippie, you know, I'm swearing into the military, and he's like, who's this guy? You know what I mean? And then I showed up for basic training already with a shaved head, and I was wearing a suit and he had a shaved head and he was wearing a suit. We were taking it serious, like we were going to a job interview, and everyone else around us looked like they were bums. And I think we got to kind of bond off of that right off the bat, that we were taking it serious and we're here to kill it.
Yeah.
So I met him, and I kind of like, we had an instant connection. So it's like, boom, I already got this like military camaraderie that, I always saw my dad have. I was like getting it right off the bat. That was already pretty cool. Basic training kicked off, and, like I said, I was a skateboarder and I was in a thrash band, and now here I am marching around doing drill, sewing name tags into socks, spit shine boots, starching and ironing shirts. And I'm like, whoa, I don't know if this is for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like your first exposure to the military, is like doing all that stuff right off the bat. But I was like, I committed 3 years to this. So I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to quit anything. So I'm going to give these 3 years and see what's up. And this is like, 10 days into it, I'm already having these thoughts. Okay, count down to 3 years. Basic training I found difficult because of those reasons. Like, it was some things that I was like, what? This is the military? It's like, no, it's the basic parts of the military. Everyone needs to know this stuff, and then you go do your thing. So you still do some stuff on there that ends up being fun near the end of the course, and kind of prepares you to be like, okay, that's that stuff. Okay, I think I'm gonna like being in the infantry if I can do stuff, and I could finally get out and do the physical stuff. So basic training, I mean, that was 18 years ago. So I've done so many courses and so many experiences since then. It's really hard to kind of like look back and remember much about that. But I remember, because it was not as impactful as like going to battle school in Wainwright and becoming an infantry soldier.
Yeah,
for sure. So after basic was done, we went out to Wainwright right away and started course right away. So me and Gavin were both going to the PPCLI, so we both went out there together with a couple other guys that were going PPCLI, and then we met a whole bunch of guys that were there already waiting for us to come and join that course. So we started right away the next day, and that's where we started on that one. It was called Soldier Qualification. That's where we started to learn like section weapons, like the light machine guns and M203s, which are the grenade launchers, and a little bit about the platoon weapons and stuff like that. And then just some basic tactics that they want everyone in the Army to kind of know. So the basics of section attacks and the basics of defensive positions and patrolling and offensive patrolling. So that was all the basics of that stuff. And then as soon as that's done, then you go to battle school and get like more detailed infantry training for another couple of months. And that's where you really bond with everyone who's going with you there, because once you're done that course, we're all going, we graduate, we become PPCLI soldiers, and we're all going potentially to the same battalion together to work together. So super tight with the guys there. I'm still friends with, a bunch of those guys to this day. Actually, one of them's a SARTEC with me. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
What was it, Nick? If you remember, what was the attrition rate from the guys who started soldier qualification, learning to be an infantry soldier, to when you graduated?
Some more people definitely quit that than they did when we were in basic training. There's just like a couple people that quit in basic training because they're not used to being away, and they're like, this isn't for me. I don't want to be away from my cats, and then they quit. And, whereas, at battle school, there was more people that once they kind of saw what the start of the training was, were like, is there another trade for me that I can do in the military? And they kind of just quit the course and asked to remuster to something else that they think is easier than infantry. That's what I've kind of found. So I wasn't like a huge attrition rate. I started doing attrition rate style courses more when I got to battalion, but I'd say there was probably only 30 something of us that started the course, and I think we finished with 21 guys. So
wow,
okay,
wow, that's pretty good actually.
Pretty small course, but a lot of the guys off my battle school course were just like fit, switched on, like all ended up being like epic soldiers at battalion, like all became jumpers and recce patrolmen, and some guys became courses and SARTEC. So it was a super successful group of guys.
Excellent.
When you went through, were you going through during the winter or was it summer?
Yeah, it was winter. Basically, so I started in summer at basic, and then when I was doing SQ and battle school, went into the frigid Alberta temperatures for sure. So and then by the time we graduated, it was the start of April. So so it was cold SQ and battle school.
It'd be good for weeding out some people.
The cold always ends up doing that. That's why in SARTEC we run our selection in the winter, because the cold's a whole other beast on top of the physical and mental things that are already happening to you. Mm-hmm. One thing I can remember on to this day is like the bone rattling feeling I could feel from hitting the frozen ground that's like borderline concrete with a pickaxe to dig a trench for like 2 days solid until we actually had a hole. Your hands are so sore. I'm sure Ben's done that a couple of times to know what I'm talking about.
It's funny, man. I didn't realize this. Like, I remember when you went through, but I didn't really realize till now that we had almost exactly the same dates. Like, I was like started basic training in August, got to battle school just before Christmas, and graduated in like April or whatever.
Yeah, that's our exact time then, man. Yeah. August.
Yeah, you gave me like a minor flashback, hitting the sandy frozen soil of Wainwright so hard that sparks are coming off your pick.
Yeah,
it's just
rattling your hands. It's like, oh man,
yeah.
Don't miss that. I miss digging.
I'll say maybe one day they're going to give people some heated gloves, heated socks, something like that, just a run to Costco. Now, I like that aspect that you're talking about, though, like how, you take each of these steps and you go through and all these different experiences, really, you really see the character of certain people, and it comes through as things get harder, but also stacked on top of one another.
Yeah.
So you could have a hard individual task, but when you got like 6 of them on top of each other, that's when you really see who like wants to be here, who's really motivated, right?
Yeah. Totally.
So after you do you're out of the training and then you're in infantry, what's lifestyle kind of like for someone who's now in PPCLI?
Yeah, it would be hard for me to say what it's like now because, like I said, when we joined, it was Afghanistan era and everything was about training and real-time war. So it's not quite like that at the battalion anymore from what I hear. Like I said, I haven't been there in 9.5 years, so I can't give an accurate reading of what it's like to be a PPCLI soldier now. But for me, when I got there, it was fast and furious. I got there in April, and like a week later, we deployed to Dundurin for a 3-week training exercise where we were just doing like section attacks, living in bivs, and just being a light infantry soldier essentially, and really getting like more from what we were doing in battle school and being like, okay, this is how it is for real. Like, with the mindset of like, hey guys, we are training for war.
Yeah.
And we are going. It's just a matter of like when we're going. So everything was about training and treating it train as you fight style, right? So take everything just as serious as if you're actually on a tour.
Can you talk a bit about that? Like that as soon as, what's the moment where they come to you and say like, this is real, like you're going to be gone next week or whatever it might be. What's kind of your mindset? And then I'm wondering, what did you tell family and what was their reaction or mindset?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my dad and my mom being, who they are, like they already knew what they were getting themselves into by having me join the military. So I always found it really easy to openly talk with them about what's going on and like, hey guys, like, you know, I don't know exactly how things are going to go, but I am going to be deploying to Afghanistan at some point. And at the same time, my dad was getting ready to go on the first combat tour, which was Task Force 106, the first offensive. So my dad was doing his workup training for that. Oh no, sorry, he was actually deployed because I got there in 2006. So my dad was already 3 months into the first combat tour.
Wow.
So the whole time I was in battle school and stuff, my dad was on tour, and that was pretty challenging as well. So yeah, while I was going through battle school, I didn't have my dad to talk to, and I knew he was out doing the shit. So that was challenging for me too, but I just had to block that out. So then when I was at battalion and we were out training and doing all that, it was very real for me because my dad's already there. I know that I'm going to be there. It's just a matter of when. And there was casualties starting to roll in at those points already. So there was just no doubt in anyone's mind in the PPCLI at the time when I was there that this was very fucking real.
Yeah.
And, we need to take this serious. So everyone's out there training super hard.
Yeah, you talk about, how you're going to talk to your parents. Hey, Dad, I'm going to Afghanistan. Hey, son, we're both in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It was a little very, very different for you. But I saw a change in the people who were joining the military around when you did, is because everybody that joined, especially the ones that are going into the infantry or the other combat arms, were like, hey, I'm joining to go kill the Taliban. Like, I'm joining to go to war. And it was a very different mindset. Did you see any people, like, as you were going through battalion workups, I mean, no one's going to show it overtly, but did you pick up on anybody who's like, holy shit? Especially, I'm going to ask specifically about your NCOs, because remember, they joined before Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Did you see any, not hesitancy, but like kind of a different mindset in different people?
You could see it on certain people, but I think you would have been able to see it without the aspect of war coming on because maybe they just weren't at that level, because there were some guys that had obviously no combat experience yet. And then when they were there, they were unreal leaders and just reacted,
right on.
But there was also guys that I think already had incompetence with them.
Yeah.
They took that over there, and then you throw war in with incompetence. It's not going to go good. And I had to see somebody get fired and removed from their job because they were going to get somebody killed, right?
Yep.
And then, the inexperienced leader now has to step up and be the leader. So I saw that as well over there. And I saw some people get removed from tour during training for just not maybe being in the same mindset as everyone else, and they're falling a little bit behind on things. And you can't really fall behind when you're patrolling in Panjway.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
When you're doing some of the training and leading up to actually deploying, did they do any kind of training around like desensitizing, like making you so that you're I don't want to say more able to kill, but it's like, they don't, if something's going to happen, they don't want you to hesitate pulling the trigger. So is there stuff around that they do? And then on the back end, I guess, do they do any sort of training that's for like PTSD or anything before you deploy?
Well, PTSD was so new at the time, like our government still didn't know what to do with that.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say nothing with that at the time. They were trying their best to do it when we were like coming back from tour with like 4 days in Cyprus, but it ended up just being like guys going out and getting super drunk and just making it to like one briefing.
Yeah.
And then guys are getting hurt and in trouble, but they were trying something, but it was just still so new for them to deal with at the time. But as far as what was the other part of the question, sorry?
Just around like desensitizing people. So
oh yeah,
Yeah, like I guess scenarios, people might be maybe more dressed up to look like someone you might be fighting.
Exactly.
Is there any other stuff that they might do to you?
Yeah, there's lots of different things that happen all throughout it, but I would say that some stuff is happening from repetition, like you're shooting at, targets that have people on it. You're shooting into kill zones. Um, you're role playing with actors, but I think a lot of stuff happens like, Ben could probably agree with me here, but some of it is like subliminal with just the way that everyone's talking all the time, the dark sense of humor everyone has. And that's an infantry soldier's way of being able to desensitize, take a step back, because you might have to get in that position where you have to pull the trigger at a human being, but you want to make sure in your mind that you don't view them as that.
Yeah.
That's my way of looking at it, and I feel like that happens just through living the infantry lifestyle out in the field, training together, living together.
That's interesting aspect too. And yeah, Ben, if you want to jump in, it's the desensitizing kind of comes from just the people around you and the conversations you're having lead you further down a path. So you almost get that group think. Maybe that's what it is.
Exactly.
When you talk about like
trying to get there, everyone's trying to get prepared for war in their own way.
Yeah.
And when you spend time with people, that really like comes together on a whole other level. You know what I mean? And I would also say, yeah, there was lots of training too, but like just the second part I was talking about really like brings it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's some things that are done deliberately, some things that are done subconsciously that are designed to prepare people for what they're going to go do. There's different things even in battle school where I trained young soldiers for one or two courses in their what Nick's talking about, the soldier qualification, the basic infantry training. And where in my dad's day, I mean, they were, and when I was a teenager, we were slaughtering animals on the farm. Most people were coming into infantry training having killed nothing bigger than an insect or a mouse. So there's an opportunity to see livestock die during that kind of training. And then further on, as you advance in training, when you get into specialty areas, there's specific things done that are designed so that it's like an inoculation. And whether it's the performative hatred of your drill instructor during basic training, when you're, have you ever seen Gunny? Not your Gunny. If you ever seen Arlie Emery in Full Metal Jacket, the reason that man got that job as an actor is because he'd been that job. And when you're doing that job, you're acting. As an instructor, you're standing outside the quarters before inspection and it's all joking and stuff. And then everyone puts their game face on and you turn into a raging, hating asshole as you go in and tear through all these trembling 18 and 19-year-olds as you tear apart their lockers and beds. The sergeants may not know why they're doing that, but what they're doing is they're inoculating young soldiers to being hated because many and most of them will have never faced that before. So it's something called the wind of hatred. One of the normal reactions when you're first shot at for the first time is, why is he doing that to me? Like, why is he, again, consciously or subconsciously, one of those reactions can be just flat out fear and moral indignation that someone's trying to kill you. So a yelling sergeant teaches you to dissociate you and trauma bonds you with your friends. So we call it team building. It's also called trauma binding or trauma binding. But whether it's deliberate or it's just kind of cultural, people talk about and they verbalize things that like about the enemy, about themselves, and you, like you said, Nathan, groupthink like when I teach combat breathing to like 25-year-old studs, I've got to call it combat breathing. It's yoga breathing.
Yeah.
But with 25-year-old studs, you got to call it combat breathing, right? So there's a language and there's a thought process that by doing it together, you start to dispel it and you start to spread it amongst you. So the fear and the anxiety is something that's soaked up by the unit. So yeah, long answer to a short question is that, yeah, there's things that are done deliberately and things that are done by accident that are done to prepare people for. Um, yeah. And afterwards, I'm going to hats off to the EPS because they've got one of the best reintegration programs I've seen in my life. It is light years ahead of the Canadian Forces. And I think you get a much higher success rate of preparing people to go back into the job than the CF does.
Yeah, they've been exporting that to all kinds of services. I think he's Glenn Close, who runs that. He's been going worldwide, as far as I understand. He's been everywhere, kind of.
He's a rock star. Yep,
teaching that. So,
that's awesome.
So for Nick, I'm wondering now, like you get through all that training. You're saying you're about to deploy, like pretty much right after you're coming out of training. You talk about the actual deployment, so you get those orders, what you're feeling, how you're thinking.
I think a bit of stuff happened in between there, though. It's like I said, like I got there and deploying to train, and then our leadership said, like, we will be deploying in the next chunk of time. I don't know when it's going to be, but we're going to train as if we're going right. But I didn't deploy right away because that was in 2006, and I was going to be deploying within like a 2-year period. We found out we're going on Task Force 108, so 2 years after my dad's deployment. So in that amount of time, I did my jump course, so my basic parachutist course. I did my heavy machine gun course. I did my recce patrolling course. I did pre-sniper and then sniper course.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then my lab turret course, because we all needed a lab course to deploy. And then within all those courses and things that I was doing, we were doing workup training, so deploying to the field to prepare for our deployment. So I was kind of away pretty much that whole time, other than my lead blocks, like training and taking these courses. And then, when we got told we were going to be deploying in March 2008, and we were on this was still in 2007, right when I got off my sniper course, we were back out in the field completing our last 2-month workup deployment, where we're doing a lot of realistic training. We got like the Miles gear on, which is kind of like a laser tag system, so you can see if guys are getting shot and hit when you're doing your training. And we're living out beside our labs and doing turret shifts all night, eating rations. So, trying to prepare for like the most detailed version of how we could be living on the offensive overseas. So trying to get the resupplies in the same manner we would do it there.
Wow.
And going and practicing and doing patrols and all the way from platoon to company live fire attacks, both dismounted and mounted with the labs. So there's a lot of complex training that happened there. Live fire, lots of stuff with blanks, lots of stuff with actors, but so many switching through different phases to get all the checks in the box that we needed to say for the government to say that we're as prepared as we can be to be the battle group that's overseas. So that was kind of when we had the word like, hey, we have a deployment date now. We're finishing our workup training. We're ready. We're worked up. We're ready to deploy as a unit and make this happen.
How are you physically at this point? So you said you came in at like $125, and you're doing all these things, and you're out in the field and eating the rations. Like, are you dropping weight, or are you able to put on any weight? Like, what do you look like?
By the time I deployed, I was probably 140.
Okay, so you picked up a few pounds.
Still only 20 years old at the time, so still having a hard time putting on weight. When I would go on tour, I ended up going back down to about 120 by the end of tour.
Oh, really? Wow.
We were living in a combat outpost for like 80% of the tour, just living off of rations, kind of cut off. So, kind of lost a lot of weight eating rations and patrolling in the heat that's hotter than hell itself, I'm sure.
So, so you deploy in March 2008. Is there, at what point are you kind of, you're on the plane or something going over there and you're like, okay, like this is it. I got myself and I'm in the shit now.
Yeah.
This is what's happening.
Family that morning before we got on the plane, as soon as I said goodbye to them and kind of like got on the bus to start driving away, I was like, okay, like I'm leaving for real here. Like this isn't going to fucking Wainwright to train anymore. Like this is real.
Mm-hmm.
So don't know what's going to happen or if you're going to get hit or whatever. Almost part of it that I would learn later on tour is that to keep going out after you're in firefights or you watch one of your friends step on an IED and die, is that you just have to accept that you're already dead, and then that way you can keep going on patrol. So that's kind of something you don't quite learn in training. You have to be prepared for, but until it's real, like I kind of had to learn that.
Really? Okay.
In
Hey, Nick, talking about that, did you ever write that letter, the one that's supposed to be mailed after you die?
I didn't know.
No. Yeah. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
When you're 19, 20. Yeah.
Is that something they had you do?
I think it's something several of us did, and then like gave to each other or whatever. But it wasn't an instructor thing. I think just somebody started doing it, and then a bunch of us did. And I wish I'd kept that.
Yeah.
Kept that letter, but it's I don't know, when you're 19 or 20, I know I'll talk to myself about myself, like I knew I was bulletproof. Like it never even entered my mind that, other than that letter, that I would possibly die. I'm going to win. I've seen all the movies. The hero always wins in the movies. So
yeah.
Just kind of continue on with so you didn't end up writing these letter, but obviously the thoughts in your head, because you're saying you have to prepare yourself, or you're thinking like, I'm already dead, so I'm just kind of soldiering on.
Yeah, I didn't think that at first. I was thinking, this is very real, but I would find out later, like I would have to think that in order to go back out on patrols and shit all the time, right? You have to kind of like click in your head. So that's something I had to learn there. But yeah, when I was already leaving, I was like, the potential to get hit is there. I've already seen it a ton of times at this point now, because it's 2 years into offensive operations. So, it's very real. It could happen to me. And I feel like if you don't have that attitude, like that it can't happen to you, it's dangerous at first, for sure. So it's good to think about the realities of war before you step into war, for sure.
Yeah.
Thinking about that on the very long flight to Afghanistan. Because you have so much time to sit in your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
And then you get super nervous and you're like, okay, like don't know what to expect out of anything. And you can feel the heat already. It's not too crazy because it's March, but it's still already like a normal hot day out. And, for the first couple of days, all we're going to be doing is staying in the big base, which is called CAF, in Kandahar province, at the airstrip there. We're just going to be there for a couple of days, and we're going to get a bunch of briefings, our ROEs briefing, which is our rules of engagement. We're doing a little bit of training. We're getting all of our full combat load of ammo. We're getting all of our gear ready, our labs ready, everything ready to deploy out to the first place that we're going to go and do the first task that we're going to do. So on the first task that we were going to do, we spent 4 days there, got everything prepared. Now we're ready. And now the feeling is real. Like we're driving outside and going into just, Taliban country, essentially. Kandahar province, Panjwai Zari district. It's where a lot of the fierce fighting's happening at the time. And it's our area of operation. Canada's holding it down with just a 500 person battle group, which is pretty crazy. And we have a bunch of forward operating bases. So the first thing that we're doing is we're doing a road move out to a forward operating base, which was actually an area, MSG, it was called, Massamgar. It was actually where a big battle happened on my dad's tour and the tour after, by the white schoolhouse that's down in the valley there. So they had to take that area in order to do the offensive they were doing there. So now it's a big forward operating base that we can launch out of. So we were going to go there and do observation posts and do quick reaction force. So respond to anyone who needs help. But any to forces, whether it's American or Brits or whoever is there operating. So we went there, and that was our first task for those 2 weeks. And now we're outside the wire, and we're driving down, and now you're like, okay, this is real.
Yeah. When you first kind of leave where you land, and then you're driving out to this, what does it look like there? Like, is this just a big barren wasteland? Is it just desert for miles and miles?
Big mountain views all in the background of Kandahar there. So when you're on, it's basically like you get out on the road and there's just like flat deserts and then big mountains is what it looks like right off the bat when you leave there.
And before you got there, were you getting any kind of were any war stories kind of coming back from people who had already deployed?
Oh, yeah.
And like you're kind of going out thinking things?
Yeah, totally. Like so many stories, so much has happened already. So many guys have gotten hit already from the PPC a lot, both like the first, second, and third, like all three battalions. So, yeah, it's just, you could hear them all over the place. We're always learning about stuff from those tours as well, too, right? So it's nonstop stories, and that's how we're going to learn from what's been going on over the last 2 years as well. So, yeah, you're hearing a lot about the realities of what's going on over there. So your mind's spinning over everything, right? You're over hyper vigilant.
Yeah, I imagine like every time you drive by a vehicle, you drive by, I don't know, a rock on the road, you're just like,
Yeah,
that's something. This could be a thing. Like you're just hypersensitive
Yeah.
to a lot of things. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Overdrive of hyper vigilance.
Yeah. Did you find when you're done your days, are you just, that much more exhausted mentally, physically?
Yeah, definitely. And the heat, once it was the summertime, like that makes you tired as well on top of what you're doing. But yeah, like when it's time to go to bed, even though you're in a war zone, it's pretty easy to go to sleep when it's your bedtime. You're down for another shift soon, or you're going on a night patrol or whatever. So it's like, it's my bedtime. That was one thing that back then in the infantry, it's like you have to have that skill set of going to sleep like this.
Yeah.
So you can get your
it's a superpower. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen guys go from full conversation to lying down and snoring in like literally 10 to 12 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like just switch off.
100%.
And it stays with you. I just flew back from Germany and I think I was conscious for about 35 minutes of the flight. Like that doesn't go away for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through some of the missions or things that you were a part of while you were over there on your deployment?
Sure. So I was switching between a couple of different combat outposts that we had where our area was. So after we did some QRF stuff there, like I don't want to talk too much war story style stuff because that's just not something I'm comfortable getting too hardcore into or anything. But yeah, basically after we did our first task at MSD there, we moved out to where our company FOB was, which is called Spurwingar. Just outside of Spurwingar, as you went back down that road, there was Checkpoint Brown, and that was manned by Afghan National Police at the time.
Okay.
And sorry, that was Afghan National Army. And then all of our areas we were going to go to, they were called police substations right when we got there. But there was no use really for the police that were in there because it was on Route Fosters and it was so heavily IED, no vehicles could travel there anyways. So now you just had these Afghan police out at these essentially like combat outposts. But what they did out there was ANA guys and infantry guys. So we went out there every 3 kilometers as the road goes was a new outpost. So the first one was Haji, second one was Zangabad, third one was Talakan, and then there was a strong point that was far out there called Mushan, and that had a whole bunch of ANA guys there, and then one small detachment of Canadians of 4 guys that went out there. And that place would get hit hard throughout that whole summer. So once we started getting out into those outposts, the first 3 weeks we were there, we were with, like I said, Afghan National Police, and then they swapped it out, changed the name from police substation to combat outpost, and we got Afghan National Army counterparts to work with us there. Each one was a different size. So the first one, we would just have a section of infantry soldiers there, which is like anywhere from 8 to 10 guys, and then 8 to 10 ANA guys, and they would just man this small little outpost.
Wow.
And then the next 3 kilometers over would be like a platoon house, and it would be about 3 sections worth of infantry guys, 3 sections worth of ANA guys, and same with Talakan, which is the next one. And then, like I said, Mushan was a strong point, so I had 50 ANA soldiers and 4 Canadians, and that's it.
Crazy.
And we manned these for 7 months on our tour. So I would say that the tactics now were kind of almost like, I would say this tactic was almost like a Vietnam style tactic, like set up these outposts, but we're not actually gaining any more ground. We're just holding these pieces of ground right now. So for a while, we would just, do presence patrols and, look for areas that we can make map out areas where we potentially we're going to get hit from and all of those kinds of things, right? And about 2 weeks into being at Talakan is where we got in our first firefight. Just you never forget when it's the feeling of someone shooting at you for the first time. You just hear the snap crack, and then everyone's like, "Oh shit!" And it was crazy how quick everyone reacted and how good of a job everyone was doing, despite being shot at for the first time. Maybe it just felt that way, but
Do you feel your training really kicked in? Were you prepared enough, you think, for that point when you look back on it?
yeah. Well, I think a lot of the flight over to Afghanistan, I was thinking, "Am I ready for this? How am I going to react in combat? Like, am I going to be a dependable, good soldier? Like, you play through all these questions, and then when something actually happens and you do good with it, you're like, okay, like that's it's good. I know what I'm doing. I can trust myself to do this job.
Mm.
I know how I'm going to act now." Yeah, I would say after that first one, it kind of lets you know, okay, I didn't cower over. I can rise to the occasion. I can do my job.
Yeah.
Did you feel it's kind of like a rite of passage, almost like it's a confirmation of everything you've done?
Yeah, and that's a good way to look at it. And you don't want to end up going back from a tour and being like, I didn't get anything after everyone else has, and you kind of feel like it's one of those be careful before you wish for things.
Oh yeah.
I wished as I was going there to be in combat, and then I would be in so much that I would be wishing for it to stop. So
Yeah.
that's where I learned once I'm a Sartec, I would never wish for a crazy mission. I'll just let them happen. I learned that from my previous mistake of wishing.
I find if you're this is even like my job, right? Being with the police, it's like I don't really have to hope these things come across my path. It's like if you're out there doing your job and getting involved in things, like it'll happen to you. Something will come across your path enough times that you're like, yeah, that's more. One is more than enough. But however many more times you have it, you're like, I'm not hoping for these things now.
Yeah, exactly.
I would wonder, like, in the kind of jobs both you guys have had, it may also be part of who you are. I mean, there's safer jobs in the army than doing what Nick did, and there's certainly safer jobs in the police force, and they're just as important. I get that, like, but do you find there's a certain type of person drawn towards the work that you do, and what do you see what makes a good, I'll call them hunter, because both of you are hunting people to a degree.
There you go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. I would say a certain type of person is suited specifically for the job of being a sniper or a Sartec. I would say, those are the people that I relate the best to this day. So they're obviously very like-minded and very similar to me. So I can relate with them, and we all have shared common experiences. So it's really easy to relate to those people over others, and I can see the similarities that I have. It's hard for me to relate to people almost outside of those worlds sometimes.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would kind of echo a lot of that. It's I don't know what it is that makes a certain person want to do these things. I think it's just a kind of a culmination of a lot of the life experiences and growing up and the things you get into. For me, and kind of what Nick was saying earlier, like a lot of the team aspect of it, the camaraderie. For me, that's a huge draw, and that's something I harp on like all the other podcasts that I have people on here for, and just talking about that. Like that's something that's missing nowadays. But that's getting like into the politics of it and everything that's going on. So, yeah, no, but I agree with what Nick's saying. So. So you're talking about like your first deployment, and just out of kind of respect for your time and stuff. want to make sure we get onto a bit of the SARTEC too. But so your first deployment, how long did that last? And then when did your second deployment come up?
Oh, so my first deployment was from March to October of 2008, so 7 months. And then my second deployment was in 2011. So I had about a couple of year gap in there, 3-year gap, where I was doing a lot of training and courses and teaching courses, everything like that, still training for tour and deploying to the field. But you just kind of never know when you're going to redeploy. So the next one I deployed on, was now I got to experience Afghanistan throughout a full year, because then I deployed in October and got home in March.
Oh, okay.
So for my second tour, so I kind of got to experience all the seasons of Afghanistan throughout my 2 deployments.
Yeah. What's Christmas in Afghanistan like?
It's still cold. I think a lot of people look at the desert. And actually, I'll tell a quick story about when I felt like I was going to die on my first tour, because it's hot during the day and then I'm on an observation post at night. And yes, I'm a sniper and a checked out guy and everything, but I'm still 20 years old and I'm still a newer soldier. So I made the mistake of not wearing warm gear, and I just had to lie there shivering all night. And I was just like, oh my God, but I didn't want to say anything and let my master why too stupid to dress warm, so I just sat there and suffered. And I learned very quick, okay, although Afghanistan's a very hot desert, it is really cold here. So yeah, it was still really cold at Christmas in Afghanistan. And I would say Christmas in Afghanistan is a little depressing, because Christmas is very oriented and you're away from them, but I guess you're with your second family, so you just make do and try and have something jokingly good for supper.
Yeah.
Passions.
Maybe if we combine these 6 things together, they'll taste like something else. Yeah. Well, so what was it like when you're going back in 2011? Because now you got that. So you have, was it 8 months? 8 months your first deployment, and then you have 3 years of all this extra training. When you're going back, what's your mindset in 2011 now? Mm-hmm. You've been through combat and everything else that's happened. So what's that like for you?
There was a couple of things that I guess caused a different mindset. And that would be one, I've already been there. I have the experience and I kind of know, okay, I'm going back there. 2, I wasn't a 20-year-old no-hook private anymore. Now I was, a little bit older. I was 25 now and, about to be 25. And I was a master corporal, and I was now had my sniper deck commander course and had been teaching on sniper courses. So I was a much more mature, experienced soldier. So I had a different mindset in that manner as well. But it was definitely very nerve-wracking on this flight in a different way than it was on the first flight. The first flight was all the unknowns. This flight was I know I'm going back to Afghanistan. I know how real this is. So it's a different set of nerves that were kicking in for that one for sure. Okay. Even though my second deployment was completely different. My first deployment was full-on combat in Panjwai district in Kandahar province. My second tour, I was a tactical advisor for A&A guys, and I was up in Herat, Afghanistan. So different spot. Didn't see combat up there. But the threat was still there the whole time. So the battle up there, not getting complacent. And when you saw complacent, that's when I would need to, as a leader, be hey guys, this is really fucking serious.
Yeah.
I know your job is different and you haven't gotten a firefight here this time, but let's stay on point here, boys.
Yeah, the complacency, it's super hard to kind of not let that creep in. You see that in policing all the time. Just something hasn't happened for months, no big event, and people just get real lax with everything from equipment to their, whatever gear you're bringing out. People aren't taking care of themselves. It's it's a very that's a real battle to have with a lot of people. When you go back as Master Corporal, are you in charge of anybody now?
Yeah.
Are you bringing a team over?
Yeah, now I'm in charge of a couple of guys who are out on my team. So we would only go out in teams of anywhere from like 2 to 4 guys, and then we were working with some Italians and American counterparts as well, and they would have little detachments out with us, and then we would have anywhere from 3 to 400 A&A guys with us.
Wow, so many.
So yeah, we were doing like extra training with the machine gun ranges, weapons classes, all this kind of stuff to help their training programs. But the screening program's still not the best there, so there's always like embedded Taliban too, right? And that's kind of the main reason that we're out there, and that's why I really have to brief the guys like, boys, we're going to a machine gun range today where they're doing live fire. There's 400 of them. You're going to be standing behind the armored vehicle, ready to take up a fire position with the C9, like everything like that. We need to be safe, right? Like, because guys are just like, oh, we'll just go out there and chill out. No. And it was actually only about a month and a half later, the contractors that took over for the Canadians there, they got actually lit up from the A&A.
Yeah. So and that was one of the things I was going to ask is like, how is it working with the A&A? And then how do they vet them? Is it just like people word of mouth, like, hey, this guy's a good dude and you can trust him?
Well, we were kind of vetting them in certain ways. So what we would do is we would have this machine that would scan their eyes and take fingerprints, and it would go into their databases. And if they'd ever been picked up for anything, then they would get cleared. Like if they'd ever been suspected of being Taliban or anything like that, and they were in some kind of system, then they're cleared, or they're taken out. But if they get cleared, that doesn't mean they're not Taliban. It just means they haven't been entered in a system. So it's really easy to stay cleared. So we were actually doing it as they were coming in for their course. As we were coming in for their course there, we're standing there and we had just have lineups of like hundreds of these guys, and they're just getting scanned and fingerprinted, and we're just standing there doing security. And then once they're all vetted and good to go, then you start hitting them out. It's kind of like a big basic training, but for the A&A soldiers is kind of what we were doing up there. Yeah. So still threat's very real, and you're going to do the training, you're outside the wire training, right? So that's where this complacency was really easy to see on that tour in comparison to the first one.
And what's it like? What kind of quality of people are they sending? Like, is this just like a lot of farmers coming in? They've never held a gun. They don't know anything about anything.
And where were they from, Nick?
All over the country.
Were they all Afghan, or they like Chechens and Uzbeks?
Yeah, they were Afghan citizens. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
On my first tour, I was, like I said, like, it's hard to say what kind of guys are going in. But there's definitely some amazing A&A soldiers out there that fought alongside. So I look at the A&A as partners for sure, but I also see that there's a potential to be a threat within it until they're not a threat. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Did they have any? Did they have anything besides like just a basic infantry? Did they have any sort of special forces that was eventually like kind of built up?
Yeah, they have everything that most militaries have now, the way they were kitted out. Like they even have helicopters, or they did. I'm sure the Taliban all have them now, but they had helicopters and Hummers and weapons and some special forces guys. Those guys were always way more checked out. It was actually surprising how much they built up over the years. Okay. Even in those 3, I was absent of the country.
So I got you for maybe about 15 more minutes. Maybe we'll kind of move into talking about the SARTech aspect.
Sure.
So
can I just shoot one question here, Nathan? Like I said, I've known Nick off and on most of his life, and his parents, particularly his dad, is a pretty major figure in the PPCLI. And I know for a fact that for a while you were probably known as Tim's son. When did you feel that? When did it turn? When did you feel that your dad became Nick's dad? Like when did you feel your own person?
Yeah, that's a lot of the stuff that I'm going through in therapy, actually.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
So yeah, it was really tough coming in and being Tim's son. I felt like probably around the time I was like 25, back from my second tour and I was a sniper deck commander and a parachute instructor and a free fall jump master. And I got promoted to sergeant. I kind of felt like, all right, I'm on my own path now. But where I really felt like I was my own soldier was when I went SARTEC and was entering my own career path that was different than my dad. That's where I really felt the change for me to be like, I have my own career within the military where I'm never going to be compared to as Tim's son. I'm just going to be right now. I'm going to be Corporal Turner until I'm successful. And then I'm going to start tech. So that was kind of where it really clicked for me, but I was starting to get my identity as like a senior NCO in the infantry. And then it just really transformed when I left and went SARTEC.
Right. Yeah. When you hit sergeant, you kind of become, it's like the mafia, you get to be a made man, you know, and I've always kind of wondered about that because you know when it happened for your dad, right? Like when he realized. I don't know if you even heard this. Is every November 11th, I host a bunch of snipers to our home after the ceremony, and a few years back, it was a few years back now. Your dad was there, and your mom, and the whole. I think the sniper platoons from both battalions were over, and one of the younger dudes saw your dad's name tag, Turner. And he goes, "Oh, do you know Nick Turner?" And of course, your dad just puffs right up with pride, eh? And your mom kind of looks over; she's all proud, and he goes, "Yes, that's our son." And the dudes were like, "Oh my God, you're the father of a legend!" You could just see the feeling go to your dad, right? He's like, and at the same time, you could see a little bit of pride, and I felt it too. It's like, yeah, he's his own person now.
Yeah.
You know, it was a really neat moment as a father. That's a really great moment when you become somebody's dad, become known as like Nick's dad. So
yeah, totally. That's a pretty funny story. That's cool.
Yeah, call him the father of a legend next time you see him.
He was just walking in the background there. Was that not? He was there a little earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
So, but you mentioned the SARTEC. So, like, it says that you went to selection. So, I'm guessing you have to go through a pretty rigorous course. This is quite the process.
Yeah, it's a 16-day selection process. And yeah, they're just putting you to the physical and mental test, and then they're going to make their selections for their course load after that. At that point, the course kind of depends on how many people are left and stuff like that. So yeah, it happens in January to February. I can't talk too much about it, but obviously, it's cold because that's happening in Alberta.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be a cold, brutal, winter-style course that you're going to have to slug it out and compete for a position in SAR against everybody else there. And these are all the best applicants of the year. So to apply, you have to have at least 4 years in the military. And then you can apply for the selection process, and you got to pass a PT test and go through some interviews. And they actually utilize your aptitude test score is actually really important. So for anyone listening to this who's interested in becoming a SARTEC, the first thing you should do is take a look at what your CPAT score is and rewrite it. It's super important. It's a really high percentage for getting you on to selection. So if you know yours is low, rewrite, and then you'll have a shot at getting on. They take the top 32 files to selection, and then they whittle the numbers down to whatever's left standing at that point. Last year, we ran a bigger selection. We ended up with 43 guys on the selection. So it ended up giving us a bigger pool of good dudes at the end to choose from. So this course is a really strong course that's in-house right now.
Okay. Well, can you, for people who don't know, can you explain what a SARTEC does? And then if you want to kind of come back to why you selected this or what made you choose this path?
Okay, well, yeah. So SART, we give pre-hospital care to people out in remote locations that nobody else can get to, and we get them to the hospital and try and save people. Our main mandate is for downed aircrafts and marine vessels, but we do go to all the places that no one else can go. We do that via the means of a big helicopter, the Cormorant helicopter, the Griffin helicopter, and right now the Hercules fixed-wing aircraft. are what we're flying with to go out on our missions. As well, we have a lot of different skill sets that we can apply to our rescues. So we're survival experts in the Arctic, on land, at sea. So we run the courses for that stuff as well for the rest of the military. We're parachutists, we're rescue divers, we're rope rescue system experts. We're paramedics. So, and we have a lot of other skill sets that go along with that stuff. We're dropping tons of different equipment to help people. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on. We have a lot of skills that we need to gain and operate with.
It sounds like a way beefed up version of like Stars Air Ambulance, but obviously you do a lot of more stuff. But yeah, you're kind of going out into the remote and getting people and trying to bring them back.
Yeah, and we're either doing that by hoisting out of a helicopter or parachuting out of a plane. So
okay,
that's how we our patients, and then we apply our other skill sets to get them out of there as quick as we can and get them transported to higher medical care.
So what made you go into this?
Well, after being an infantry soldier and fighting in a war, I wanted to help people on a different level. So I knew SAR, we don't deploy, we help domestically. So we're saving Canadian lives 365 days a year, always on call, always ready to rock. Mm-hmm. There's only 120 of us across the whole country covering our whole area of operation. So we're only a small select trade. Even throughout the whole history from 1944 until now, there's been less than 700 SARTECs ever. So it's a small group of guys for sure, well, guys and girls. Yeah, it's and it was the best job I ever had. That's for sure.
Yeah. Can you tell us about some of the stuff that you've been involved in? Like, is it like any high profile rescues that you've taken part in? Maybe something people have seen in the news?
One thing about high profile rescues is that there's so many rescues happening all the time, and when they do report it, they sometimes call us the Coast Guard and like this. Okay. I feel like there's a lot of people that actually don't know what's going on out there. I mean, like there's missions happening at the squadron, and I'm at the school and I don't even hear about the missions. So there's a disconnect even from us. Like, so disconnects out there pretty big. But yeah, I've had a whole bunch of different missions ranging from, going out to get people off a boat that's 250 nautical miles out to sea on the helicopter with massive sea state and crazy winds, and to like pulling someone off a world-class racing vessel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, going up to the Arctic, searching for people, and on Baffin Island, way up north, going 900 nautical miles out to sea, searching for a boat. So your missions when you get called out just range from so much different stuff. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I was just down in Galveston. You get to walk on it was a destroyer, and even when I was walking on that, I'm thinking like, this is like it's a big boat or a big ship, but man, like when you're on the ocean, I'm just like that. This thing didn't feel wide enough for me. It was like too tall. I'm like, I don't know how guys go on even a big ship like this and go way out there with like the power of the ocean. Like, there's no forgiveness. So it's definitely a scary job being way out there in the water. I don't know how people do that.
Yeah, it is. You have to just kind of block it out. It's kind of that same mentality I like almost talk about with, being like, oh, okay, like I accepted that I was going to die when I was 20 years old at war. So like, I kind of apply that to other things. I'm like, you know what, like it's all good. I'm going to landmark all my exits. If something happens, like I'm ready, but we're good to go. You just kind of, you gotta make it that way so that you can get out there and do that dangerous job and do it, safely and effectively. So whatever you got to kind of talk through in your head to go pull it off, you do. So
yeah, this is what I mean about you think this is normal. This is not normal shit, man. Like Nathan's talking about being on a major vessel out in the middle of the ocean. But when things go wrong, you and your people are the ones who come out in a very much smaller aircraft than their ship and pick them up and save their lives. Like, you'll look back at this, I think, and you'll realize. Well, I don't think you will realize until you get out and look back at it how exceptional it is, man. It is a different mindset, and when you get out, it's seductive. Like, you look at your dad, right? He's busy throwing people out of airplanes on the civvy side now, right?
Yeah.
You know, I do my shooting thing. There's other dudes who are teaching people to race motorcycles. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad there's people like you out there doing it, man. So,
oh, thank you very much, Ben. I appreciate that.
You can come pull my ass off the side of a mountain someday.
We're just coming up to the end of the time here. It says keep you around an hour and a half. I'm just wondering, is there anywhere people can follow you, or do you put anything on social media?
I don't really update my social media. I have an Instagram, but I haven't put a picture on there in like 3 years, probably, or anything like that.
Okay.
People are willing, if they want, I can put it out there. They can view my profile because I do have some stuff on there.
Yeah, shoot it my way, and I'll put it in the episode description. Like any links or anything else you would like up there. But yeah, man, I'm glad we could have you on, and you could talk to us about some of your experiences, a lot about the mindset of people going into these situations, because I think that's the big part that people don't get. Like, obviously, they watch the movies, they see the explosions and all that stuff, but to have the person here to contextualize a lot of that, I think is probably the most important part of this, and kind of talking about some of these experiences. So
yeah, well, thanks a lot for having me on, Nathan. It was awesome, great experience, and yeah, it was really nice chatting with you guys.
Cool.
Good to see you, man. In my head, I'm kind of doing the old guy thing when you're like, you're like 9 or 10 years old, and then I see your face on there, and I'm just super proud and like super happy you've become the man you have, man. Give your mom and dad a hug for me, man.
I will, Ben. And it's good seeing you as well. And thank you for the kind words, man.
You bet, dude.
All right. Take care, Nick. And hang on there, Ben. I'll just chat with you real quick.
Well,
all right. Stay safe, boys.
Thanks.